Welcome all on the monthly Q&A with game developers. This time I will have a talk with Chad, the game designer of Clarevoyance. Welcome, Chad.
Hey Adinda, thanks for having me.
Clarevoyance is a point-and-click adventure about the district Clare of Nova Scotia.
Ça fait trop longtemps.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais ici?
C'est dire for weird to say, ça amenait des échos du temps mythique.
Allez là, cognez sur la porte. Moi, il faut que tu rencontres ma famille.
Astor halombraka alflale.
Non, je suis pas anciennement.
Omar! Omar!
Alors, quand tu dis pas trop sec, comment t'en là? Voilà,
Oh mon Dieu!
Files-tu ça? Les temps qui frôlent, qui vont pas en avant, un bout.
That ship, Stowaway, is the Mary Celeste.
This is a very unique game. Did you have a particular group in mind when you were designing this?
Yeah, for sure. Well, you could probably tell, the game is super local. It's set in my hometown, which is a small fishing village on the east coast of Canada. So pretty much that community was the target audience. The way the game was financed, it was to highlight the culture and the folklore of the region. So yeah, I think it's cool to share this with the rest of the world, but for sure the main audience was people from around home.
How did you get to work on a game about Clare? Did you ask all your neighbors to say, yeah, we are going to make this game, or how did you work this out?
You're pretty close, actually. Well, for the research phase, we partnered with the local university, which has Acadian history department. So they did research on old folklore and stories people used to tell. And then when it came to producing the game, we had over 100 people in the studio to record the dialogue. And that's where it was interesting, because I just basically said hey, I'm looking for a bunch of people. A bunch of people just messaged me to sign up. It's a small town, so everybody knows each other.
Okay, so how many people worked on the game?
Over 130, but 110 of them are the characters. As you saw, every town you go to, there's a bunch of characters that you can talk to and get stories from and stuff like that.
Yeah, I noticed that I saw you in the game. That's correct, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I had to fill one character, and it's just all right, I'll just friggin' do it.
Okay, so all the civilians in the game are basically civilians of your town.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Okay.
It was really fun. There's a studio by the ocean, and everyone had a half-hour time slot, and they came in, we took their pictures, chatted, recorded the dialogue, and then everyone got to pick a gift certificate for a local shop. So they were happy to come by and participate.
Okay, so you just kind of goodie them in with some tickets from around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So, is your mom in the game?
Mom is not in the game. She could have played probably an English character. She doesn't speak much French. Are my grandparents in this game? No. One of my grandmas is in 3 of my games, but she didn't make it into this one.
Whoa, wait a minute. Your grandma is in 3 of your games? Explain this. Wow.
Okay. All right. In the first Acadian game I made, the mom character is named after my grandma. It's kind of a hybrid of my mom and grandma. That doesn't really count. I made a thrift store simulator because there's Frenchies from Clarevoyance.
Mm.
It's such a cool thrift store. So I made a game just about that, and she's in it telling some stories. And I made a game about my 4 grandmas, and you explore each of their stories in a different format. So she's actually, her picture and her voice is in one of them.
Wow, okay. So in most games your grandmother is hidden. So that's your hidden egg.
The Easter egg, yeah.
Nice. Okay. Wow, okay. I'm thinking, I've never done that in any of my projects. I'm thinking about putting that.
Don't add your grandparents to your games? What's wrong
No,
with you?
yeah.
Do you know who voiced the detective?
Oh my gosh. No? Wait. No, I don't know.
It was me, but sped up to hide. Also, yeah, it's another case of the the dude I had in mind couldn't do it. So
Because you were saying that it's like about your village, right? Is the main building where we live in, is that your house?
ooh, that's a good question. No, it's I don't know if it's abandoned, but it's just a house, and it conveniently had like a bigger part and a smaller part, and I was like, that would work good because you're kind of living with your aunt and uncle while you're visiting Clare.
Okay, so that house literally exists?
Every house, everything is the pictures are all from Clare. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, you can come visit, and you can go buy fish on the wharf. You can go get lost in the woods. You can go visit the people in the houses. It's not the same people. You'll find different people, but will be glad to meet you, I'm sure.
Okay. So most of the names are also like the same in the game?
Some of them, for the really iconic people, like the musician Arthur Kamau, like he's just, you can't change his name. Also Nemahana, like for some I kept their first name, but a lot of them it's just remix, like old names from the town, like the names your grandpa would have or something, like just classic Acadian names.
Yeah, it was like almost everyone is called Kamau. I was first like, how often is he going to reference himself? Oh wait, oh, there's so many Kamaus there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like Smith or something, or I don't know what it is in the Netherlands. Like in Germany, it's like the Miller or Schneider. It's a super common name.
Yeah. I was thinking, hey, okay, I see him on the picture, and I also hear a comment. I was like, whoa, is he like
Is Chad the Kojima of Akati just putting his name everywhere?
Yes. But so cool, you just brought all your like neighbors and said, yeah, we're going to make a game. I think that's really cool. I don't think
it's not a usual process, but it worked.
it's totally not a useful process.
Yeah, I had to do like a form for everyone to sign that I could use like their voice and their image and stuff. It had its own challenges, but it went pretty smooth, all things considered.
Nice, that's really good. Was the game genre of point and click adventure clear from the beginning, or did you just I want to make a game about this village and I don't know yet what's going to be the game genre?
Right. You are right that the main point was, okay, the reason we're getting the funding is to highlight the region.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always first. The genre came a bit later, actually. I had like $1,000 art budget. So I was like, oh, we'll do pixel art. It will be like, top down, you walk around. But when it became clear that like, okay, it'd be cool to have some photography of the region, because that's kind of the main attraction, and the voice recording, which would be like real people, it just makes sense to do like a kind of collage style, which is what we ended up with. And yeah, the point and click interface just made sense with those like the photography assets.
Yeah, the game has quite a lot of different quest lines. I was wondering, which one did you enjoy the most and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's one that's a fan favorite that I like quite a bit. It's with the musician who's like, you meet him on the beach.
Arthur.
It's a fun one. Yeah, and that one too, the time traveling.
Yes.
There's too many good ones. I might be biased.
Yeah. So, and what have you learned by making Clarevoyance?
Oof, a lot of stuff. It was mostly like a solo project on the development side. So like I'm not a programmer, I'm primarily game designer, still student. So I still have a lot to learn, but I was coding it with RPG Maker because I know it well, and because
okay.
yeah, it's pretty heavily modded. It doesn't look like an RPG Maker game, but I had experience with it, and because I couldn't hire any other full-time workers, I had to do what I could to make the project come to life.
Okay.
And yeah, a lot of the tasks, like the scheduling, like 100 people came in the studio in a week. Like that was like a super awesome week, but also exhausting. So I think having someone to help you with like scheduling and like ordering the seat, like we did a soundtrack, we did art prints from a local artist for the logo.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's okay. It's a local artist. Nice.
Yeah, the music is made by people from the region too, the soundtrack. So yeah, coordinating everything was a full-time job, so I should have definitely had more help.
If I hear it correctly, it was like a 60 hours work week, or was it like sometimes a lot of work and sometimes not? Or
yeah, it was a bit split. Like it's with funding this project that I was able to come to CGL and meet you actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Germany for 1 year during the research phase. So then we partnered with the university, like I mentioned, and they did research and wrote articles and helped what would become like the storyline basically. So it wasn't full time, obviously. Then I was studying at CGL, but then I went back to Clare to work on the game full time for a year, and it went over 60 hours, definitely some weeks, but yeah, some weeks not also. So it was just it was depending on what needed to be done at that time.
If you would remake the game, I'm just thinking like, what would you do differently if you had all the time and the money?
All the money, that's an interesting
Yeah.
one. I'd definitely hire like a full-time artist and programmer. I would ditch RPG Maker because the game's, because it's so modded, it's not really running well on some older machines, unfortunately. And for my target audience, they don't have gaming PCs, everyone in my hometown, so it's kind of unfortunate that it doesn't run so well for some of them. I would probably schedule myself a bit better, like a whole year for research and a year for production. It should have probably been a bit more for production, but I was studying at CGL, so
Yeah, that's fair. Working and studying at the same time, it takes a lot of time and, well, devotion. When I was playing the game, I was like, it has some interesting mechanics, but I would see it in a museum, or basically. That's what I had the feel of the game. So.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, I tried to make it fun and playable, obviously, but yeah, the primary reason for it existing is to convey like the cultural heritage content.
Yeah, but I mean that went on very well. I think in that way you really succeed. But indeed, the target group is very small. But,
Yep.
Well, I played it. Now I know something about your place. So
Nice.
That's cool.
I got a few Steam reviews from people who were like, who came from there, but then have not lived in Clare for years, and they're just like, oh my god, like it's so cool, it's super nostalgic. So I think I reached a few people, but yeah, it's obviously not huge numbers for sales, but for the community, it was a huge success, and that was the main point of it, to have an activity in the community and highlight the stories and get everyone involved. So yeah, it was its own kind of success, I think.
So did you knock on the door at your university to say like, I want money to build my game? Like, how did you work that out?
So how it all started, I by myself just made like my first indie game, which was like an Acadian game. Again, not a huge reach, but there was a World Acadian Congress, which happens every 5 years. So it lined up, so I was able to release my game there. And then a local arts organization in my community, which, you know, they don't have anything to do with games. They were like, hey, can you do like an English version of this game? There's like an art exhibit thing. And so we did that. And then they're like, hey, we have this project about the history of the roads of the hometown. Can you make a game maybe? It's like, yeah, okay, we work together. And then I pitched Clarevoyance because like, hey, I want to do this full time. Maybe we can work together on a bigger project. So we already had worked on a few projects. So it's because I was doing these things which don't have much to do with games that it opened the door to me be able to do it full time.
Well, I think this is very interesting. It's also like one of my personal advices is just get out and work with people and see what you can do to build up games, because basically you are building it out of passion and people will notice if you are good in what you give, and then you can maybe get the game idea right on paper and on the real world.
I agree with you there for sure.
So yeah. Also wondering, I didn't test myself, but in the game, can you die by having like your how was it called? Like your well-being.
The well-being.
If the well-being is 0, do you die? I haven't tested.
You don't die.
Oh, you didn't die.
Yeah, for the listeners, basically there's like at the start of the game something spooky happens and you're like, oh, your character's like not super happy, and you have a well-being bar that starts pretty low, and if you eat well, if you chill at the beach, if you go to music concerts, you start to feel better. But if you use the magic system, it'll drain it again. Mm-hmm. So it's like a pacing system. But if you go to 0, you don't die, you're just sad. And you can't do magic.
So maybe I should try this, but then I already beat your game, so yeah.
Well, because the audience is non-gamers, basically, like I didn't want to add some friction or some failing, basically.
So the language in the game is like, it's a mixture between French and English, right? Or
a little bit, yeah. Like when the French colonists came to Canada, eventually were kicked out, and it's a long story, but pretty much small towns in Nova Scotia are surrounded by English, so the accent kind of rubbed off on us. And also, it's like a time capsule preserving a lot of old French words. So it's a mixture of older French and modern French, obviously, and some English influence too. It sounds like almost like a pirate's French, like old words and a lot of maritime words because like it's by the ocean, so it's sounds a bit piratey.
So do you really speak this language, or did you need to look up for everything that you were like recording yourself? Did you already know how to speak it, or did you need to look it up?
Right, yeah, it's very much still alive. Like we have a lot of cultural programs and a lot of music, like Arturcamo of Tibet, like everyone who's in the game, like they sing in this accent. We're very proud of it, that we're, you know, against the odds still around. So yeah, when I'm at home or when I'm gaming with friends from home, je parlais en français avec John Full Blast, là, c'est la langue que je suis plus confortable dedans.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. But if in 100 years it's not around anymore, people can play this game and hear like 100 people talking about stuff in the dialect, which is pretty cool, I think.
Nice. Yes, that's really cool. Cool. So are you going to like make a new game with the same kind of group, or like how is that going?
Currently not. Like I might do more cultural projects. We did a grant for a different one, but for such a large scale one, it might be hard again to get so much money. Like it was just you know, the right time, the right pitch. I think we were able to get enough funding to put this together and then have everyone be available to come do these characters, which would probably be hard during the pandemic.
Oh, that's a good point. Yes. That's, oh yeah, that was in 2000. Yeah, the time that we could get out and stuff. When did you start making games?
Oof, I started. Okay. I probably made some games when I was a kid on papers and stuff with friends, but it really started when I first went to university to study translation. A buddy showed me RPG Maker, and we were like addicted to it. And like 10 years later, I'm still using RPG Maker. I think it's time to move on.
Yes.
But yeah, it's been about 10 years now doing little games with friends.
Yeah, but with game engine, it's like every game engine has their pro and cons, and you get used to it. So any game engine is good. Yeah.
It's like an instrument. Like if I want to write a song, I'm not gonna construct a guitar every time. I'm gonna pick up the engine or the instrument that has its own affordances and abilities, right?
Yeah, that's a very good way to say it. Nice. Yes, I was just wondering because like FringFrang is that your company, or is like that the company of like all the people of Clare, or like how do I need to see that?
Right. FringFrang used to be my blog. Then when I started doing this project, that's like when I started doing games full time, I founded it as a company. It's basically just me for my game projects. I needed a company, but it's named after a type of food. It's like potato pancake kind of dish that we have. And I knew nobody else would have the name, so I picked it.
Nice. Okay, so I was wondering, like, do you like more to work on applied game project, because like Claire was kind of more serious games, or do you really like to make entertainment games? Do you feel like there's a difference in enjoyment?
I think ultimately it would be nice to do entertainment games. Like I grew up playing games, and you know, to make a game that a lot of people would play and have a community, I think would be really fun. But I haven't been able to do that so far. I guess I saw an opportunity with Acadian themed games like Clarevoyance, because there was a source of funding and there was like 0 games in this field, so I could like make a living from it. But obviously when I release these super targeted games, there's not much of a player base. So I think it would be fun to try a more commercial game soon, to see what it's like to be successful, I guess, commercially.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really cool that you just like randomly got all like the people living in the same place, and you're coming together and say, "Yeah, I'm going to work on a game." I think that's really cool. About that, like, on which game are you working now? Right now,
I just finished one for my semester. I studied game narrative and game writing. And yeah, it's like a sci-fi. I really love sci-fi, so it was cool to make a sci-fi. But it's a twine, so it's again not very flashy. It's like a text adventure. I'm also working with my roommate Rue, or for him, on a new studio called Achtung Autobahn, and we're doing a historical game set in the 1960s in West Berlin. So it's still kind of, I guess,
You should maybe not talk too much about that, because we are going to have a Q&A about that as well.
That's true.
Yes.
This is the teaser.
This is a teaser, indeed.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, it feels on brand for me, I guess, because it's still like a historical, cultural, like adjacent game, I guess.
Yeah, you're really into like your linguistic, historical stuff. That's really cool, because you bring something from another study to your other study of game design. And I also was wondering, because I like to ask this to all the game developers I'm talking to, like, what would what would be your advice for other starting game developers?
Well, for programmers and artists, I wouldn't be so well placed to give advice, but for designers, I guess it's a bit like you mentioned. Like if you have experience outside of games, I think it helps to bring something unique. I saw a Nintendo interview or something that early on they were always hiring people who were outside of game development, just because they would have a different view and fresh takes on things. So yeah, if you want to make games, it's important to, like, watch movies, read, go out in the world. It's hard now, but
yeah,
just
but
open
still now we can be in the world and see how different it is. So that's also an interesting approach.
Yeah, it's a good perspective for sure. Like Jesse Schell's Book of Lenses was like the first big game design book I read, and it's all about viewing something from a lot of different angles. So yeah, having different perspectives, keeping an open mind, and trying other kinds of projects. Like try to write a short story, try to write a song, and just
I agree on that. Like the book of Jesse Schell is like one of the great books for game design. I think everyone should read it. So thank you very much for sharing all your wisdom with us. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, and yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to chat and catch up, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.